Hey guys, welcome to our new video. For today's video, we're actually not even going to talk about film. We're actually going to talk about how Seth and I view good and bad design when it comes to graphic design. And the reason why we're going to do that today is because we're actually trying to promote Seth Paulson's website today, Restructure Design. And to kind of promote that, we want to talk about kind of our views on good and bad design. If Seth were to do a design for you, this is kind of how he views good design whenever he's working on one of your designs as a client. And kind of when we talk about bad design, we're talking about things that we try to avoid both as designers, but specifically what Seth tries to avoid whenever he's trying to design something for someone, unless if they really, really want that as what they want for their design. So I guess for this video, guys, I'm actually going to let Seth do his opening thoughts on good design.
Cool.
And then I'll get into detail of what I view as good design as well. So, what's some of your thoughts on good design?
For me, I think for me, design is very tricky, for me to talk about, because there are all forms of design, from simple and clean to realistic to basically anything out there. And there is a lot of forms of design. And for me, I love the simple and clean look. For me, what makes really good design is communicating a message. And for me, whether it's designing an advertisement to a logo or a brochure, let alone just branding something, it's really more about communicating your intended message. And I think the other most important part of design is really, how to communicate to your audience and knowing what audience you're supposed to communicate to. And a lot of design has a lot of different tones to it. So I think there are a lot of things that are good about design and bad about design too. I guess for me, graphic design is more commercialized, but on top of that, it can be you can have a lot of creative freedom. But I think once you're working with clients, you have to really listen to your clients, knowing really how to work with them, because sometimes they might not have maybe the greatest design sense, but that's actually kind of where you come in, especially myself, who's in the professional graphic design field. You basically have to give them your input and really have to work not only overcloud your ideas over their ideas, but basically just collaborating your ideas and the client's ideas. So basically you're collaborating just everything and just really paying respects. So anyways, I think for me, yeah, just good design is good hierarchy. For me, it's really being simple, and I think also having a good understanding of color theory and knowing when to use it and when not to use it. So yeah, let me give it to my good friend Tom.
Okay, guys. So I guess for me, I was once a graphic design student, and even though I am still in a design-related field, I'm more for a field that focuses more on film and media and all that stuff. It's still a design program. It's just called Visual Communications. But anyway, guys, when I was in design, even when I still design to this day, to me, good design is always an original idea, a creative idea, a design that works well in both black and white and color. And the reason why I say that is because, like, let's say your clients they want to have it in color and they have the budget to make many copies of it in color on their business paper. But if they didn't have the money and they had to have it in black and white, when specifically with like business paper and everything, I think it is important for the design to look good in black and white, just so even if that company has a lower budget when it comes to print, they're still going to have a good looking logo even in black and white. As far as logos go, I think if it works well in a series of products, like if it looks just as good on paper as it does on a folder, as it does on a business card, as it does on a website, I think you have a good design going for you. So always make sure that your design works well with all those things. If you want to have like a common background with it too, I think that's good also. So like that way, when they go to the website, they're going to see that blue background. They're going to see that blue background on a business paper. Or they're going to see that blue background on a folder or a business card also. Um, and speaking of colors, I think it's also interesting to have an interesting use of color or a good color scheme whenever you're designing. And when I say color scheme, I mean like I learned this in color media class. Um, Go for like a triadic color scheme, or make sure it's like, or maybe you can like play off of opposites, like have a dark color and a very bright color, or something along that line. Yeah, monochromatic is another one too. Um, Make sure it has good and readable typography. A lot of people always tell me it's the type that makes or break the design.
And it's funny. I think definitely. I think typography is always a big debate in the world of design, especially like a typeface that's being constantly used over and over and over again. Eventually, once a typeface has gone through that process, a lot of people's like, well, we don't like it anymore. It no longer serves a purpose. But
kind of like Helvetica is one of those typefaces.
Helvetica is cool. I use it a lot. But just I think a good example of a typeface that a lot of people don't like is Papyrus
or Comic Sans.
And Comic Sans, and those are just real common fonts that you'll find even that'll automatically come like with Word. But for me, I don't. I mean, I think like everybody else, I do dislike those fonts. I mean, I guess I really don't, really dislike them. But I think for me, every typeface has a purpose, and if you use it right, based on what you're trying to convey, with your communication, whether it's an advertisement or logo, whatever, as long as it's used well, based on the look and feel, then I believe any typeface can be very, very successful.
And besides typography, guys, another good thing I think that's good with design is the use of the background. Usually when you're designing, you always don't want to use a white background, or you always don't want to use a black background. I think it's good to have a variety, specifically with maybe a more inviting client like a garden shop or something like that. A good design composition is always important. Layout is always done in a professional manner. You don't want to confuse your viewer. Like if you're making an instruction manual, they won't have to go all the way over here to read part 1, all the way back there to read part 2, and all the way back there to read part 10. Also, is it big or small enough to fit on print? If your logo fits the whole business paper, it's not a business paper anymore. If the logo is too small for the business paper, they're not going to know that that's for that certain business when they look at that piece of paper.
And I think definitely print is definitely another conversation in and of itself. Inkjet compared to LaserJet. LaserJet's a little more finer. Prints with powder. In regards to inkjet, inkjet is more ink based, a little bit less sharper than laser. And then of course RGB, CMYK, RGB for web, CMYK for print. PPI versus DPI. PPI is pixels per inch, which is for the computer, and dots per inch, which is printed on paper.
Also, I think it's kind of, I guess for this next one, you got to make sure it's appropriate at the time and place for it. Have some of yourself put into the design. Like if you're big on illustration, if you're big on flat imagery, if you're big on 3D imagery, if you're big on a certain color scheme, if you're big on maybe the pen tool over the pencil tool, maybe try to incorporate that into the design somehow. Obviously, if your client doesn't like it, you can always go back and change it, but you can at least give them a good sample of kind of how you view his design, what's your special touch when it comes to making your own design.
And I think that's one thing I can always give advice to people who have designed or are currently pursuing a design field is really play off your own strengths and work with it. I think that's one thing I became a victim of when I was in school. Is I always wanted to compare my work to other people's work, and everyone has a different kind of style, and everyone has a different kind of strength. And for me to compare myself to someone else that has a different style is really unfair to myself and to my knowledge of design. So For those of you are going out into a graphic design related, program, if you hope to pursue it, let alone, you know, hope to pursue a career, just really play off your own strengths and eventually, and I think the other thing too is not only play off your own strengths, but also be open to new ideas, and eventually, once are pursuing a career in graphic design, and once you are starting to play with clients, really listen to them, and also definitely give your own input.
Also, another good thing about design too, you guys, is your use of style, technique, and working surface. And what I mean by working surface is if you actually look at the Raven gaming software logo, you'll notice that I think it actually is a picture of a raven. You'll notice it kind of looks a little crinkled when you look at the design. And I heard from somewhere that what they did is they actually designed it and they gave it to Raven, and Raven says, "Can you do something more with it? We like it, but we want something more done with it." So what they did is, and I heard this from an instructor that I had once. They printed it off on a piece of paper. They crinkled it up as much as they could, and when they uncrinkled it and flattened it again, it has that kind of crinkle look to it.
Mm-hmm.
So then they put it on the scanner, scanned it,
Mm-hmm.
and then put it back in the original file, so it had that crinkle look to
So
it.
they overlapped it,
And that way, because they kind of wanted I think they wanted a more grittier look to it, and they thought
that makes sense.
the crinkle added to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So they turned it in, and they loved it. And I think that's still the logo they're using to this day because of that. So things like that is what can really make a good design really stand out, and will make more clients want to come back to you because of it. And when we come back, you guys, even though we just talked about good design and kind of what this man can provide for you if you go to Restructure Design, which I will have a link below for those who are interested in seeing the site. When we come back, you guys, we're going to talk about bad design, things you should never do as a designer, and things that this man will do with your work that will never happen because Seth is a very good designer. And we hope to see you back here for part 2.